Robertson Trading is a general store. But it's more like a museum, a time capsule of the North, where animals, artwork, and antiques can be found from floor to ceiling.
Anybody that wants a taste of northern Saskatchewan and the fur trade that was so important to northern Saskatchewan gets a taste of that at Robertson's. So all the carvings you see on the wall are all done by Aboriginal people. All the beadwork is done by local Aboriginal people.
The collection has been built up over more than half a century.
We like it. We like to display some of the best that we think northern Saskatchewan has to offer. We're not just buying it and selling it to make a buck. You'll see 100 not for sale signs on stuff in the store. And the reason for that is we think that stuff should get some attention.
But now, the future of the collection is uncertain.
Is that in there?
As Scott Robertson prepares to close down the iconic shop. This isn't a decision he's making lightly.
It's misery. This stuff keeps me up at night. I do not feel good about this in any way, shape, or form. My head says do it, my heart says don't.
Scott has lived and breathed the store his entire life.
The legacy is that, my father and mother, a couple that came to this store with nothing but dust in their pockets, could work hard and make a life.
Before moving to LaRange, Alex Robertson spent years living in different northern communities. He was a professionally trained fur grader.
Worked for the Hudson's Bay Company for 22 years and then struck out on his own and became what's called a free trader or an independent trader.
In 1967, Alex and Phyllis and their 4 children settled in LaRange, a small town on the edge of the Canadian Shield. They bought a tiny shop called the LaRange Grocery Store.
We lived in the back of it, no running water, bad heat, full of mice, but that was how my parents got their start. So in that little shack of a store, they worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, side by side.
About 7 years later, they built a brand new building and named their store Robertson Trading Limited.
The fur trade was big business. There was 4 fur buyers in this town when I was a kid, and it was cutthroat competition among all of them. Trappers would take their parcels to every single fur buyer, and take the best price. People would walk into the store with big bags of fur. They'd be dressed in their best beaded jackets, their best moccasins. It really was an interesting time.
Scott says his dad could read beaver skins like the pages of a book. And working alongside his dad, Scott learned the craft.
I don't think I've ever been more than arm's length away from a pile of fur in my lifetime since I was a child. I like to have tanned fur around. I mean, I can hardly walk by a pile of beaver skins without petting them.
But even though Scott was drawn to fur and northern life, he never intended to make the store his life's work. And Scott left LaRange with his partner, Karen.
We were high school sweethearts, and we both went away to university. I became a teacher, and he became a business person, and our plan was actually to head towards Calgary, but we ended up here because his mom and dad needed some assistance with the business.
My father was getting older, and the stresses of running a business and working 7 days a week was a lot. The fur business at the time was very competitive. He had borrowed lots of money to expand and to buy fur. Interest rates were double digit. Help, as always, is hard to find, and so you lean on family members.
Alex Robertson stayed close to the store for as long as possible until his death in 2010. But Scott has been managing the store full-time since he was in his 30s.
My husband has lived and breathed this store for the last 56 years. So I've lived and breathed it too, kind of in a different way, but in the way that a wife supports a husband who comes home at 9 o'clock at night, and that's when I bring supper out, and I put the kids to bed when they were children at 7 at night, and he'd come home at 9 and wake them up, and I had to be patient with that because this is our life. Now, it's been a hard life for him, a very hard working man that he is, but it's been a good life.
As the years at the store passed, the fur trade dwindled to a sliver of what it once was, although Scott still deals with the fur that comes in. And they've kept busy at the store, filling the needs of people spending time in the bush.
We still very much are outfitters, so exploration camps, drilling camps, tourist camps. We fill their orders, whatever that might require.
This longtime employee, Glenda Olson, says the store is a community hub, a gathering place that's brought people together.
What makes the Robertson stands out to a lot of customers because here is like a meeting ground. Some other places you go to, it's always rush, rush, rush. And here they just stand around and they chit-chat and talk to each other, catch up, and they'll say, okay, we'll meet again in a year or so. And
When it's gone, I can't even imagine the hole that it's going to leave. Yeah, not just for us, but for some other folks too.
The Robertsons have always worked hard to maintain strong relationships with the people coming through the store.
For Alec, he was always kind to everybody. I think that's probably what I would stress about Robertson Trading, and is that it was a place where Alec helped out lots of people, and then Scott took over and he does the same thing.
Scott loves the store. He's tormented by the thought of retirement and has been pushing it back for years, although he understands why it's time.
What's the alternative? Do you work till you've had your first heart attack? Or do you manage the closing of this while you're still healthy and have all your marbles?
Scott did not want to sell the store to a stranger.
I have family members that could do this, but they're not interested. And it's hard to sell, a legacy like this. So you sell it to somebody who's going to do it badly. I'm still going to live in this town. I'll still be driving by the front door every day.
And so the shop will shut down at the end of December.
We will sell off the inventory, we'll sell off the building eventually. I'm not in any hurry to do that. But for me, and this is not probably a rational decision, it's better for me to close the store and Robertson Trading dies with me.
As for the collection in the store, the Robertsons would like to see it put on display in La Ronge for the community and their family's legacy. Kendall Latimer, CBC News, La Ronge.